All right, hey gang, Mr. Brennan back here with you. Welcome to the last video lesson you'll have to watch in the energy unit, and it is going to be on subsidies, and hopefully it'll be short and sweet. I'm pretty confident that many of you do not know what a subsidy is, so I'm going to start right there. Uh, what is a subsidy? Well, the way I would define it is by saying, or the way it's defined is by saying it's monetary assistance paid to a business or industry. The way I would explain that is by saying that is really the opposite of taxes. Taxes are where you give the government some money, and in turn, the government provides certain services or things that you want. So you give taxes, the government gives you some people health care, everyone gets military protection, firefighters, police officers, education, uh, that terms. And in a subsidy system, the government is the one giving the money to a business or industry in exchange for something. Now, what that something is depends on the subsidy. Sometimes um, that subsidy is given provided that businesses stay in the United States. Sometimes that subsidy is given to increase production. So if a business will increase production, they get the subsidy. Sometimes the subsidy is given if a company or a business or an industry decreases production. Um, and they all have different causes and effects. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what does a subsidy look like in a market? Now, this is our supply and demand curve, as you all should be familiar with by now. And what we have here is our initial supply curve and our initial demand curve. Now, under our initial supply and demand curve, and let's say this is gas. This is gasoline. This is the industry that we argue about the most as a nation. And let's say this is $4. And let's say this is 80 barrels right here. So at a price of $4 a gallon, the industry can produce 80 barrels. Now, consumers are not going to be happy if they have to pay $4 for very long. So they will begin complaining drastically. Um, and producers may say, hey, it's getting more and more expensive for us, so we may need to even raise the prices. The fear of suppliers charging more and demanders demanding less could cause the government to step in. And they'll say to suppliers, um, if you produce or if you lower your cost, we will give you $1 million, let's say. So lower cost equals $1 million per business. Well, if each business gets $1 million, that means it's going to cost way less for them to produce. If they produce way less, that will lead to an equilibrium price right here. So this is our new supply curve, which brings our equilibrium price now down to about 280. And this is exactly what's happening in the United States right now. If we had to pay the full price of what was being asked by the gas companies or the oil companies, we would be paying well over $5 a gallon. However, subsidies from the United States government allows us to pay a price right now in the mid $3 range. What do subsidies look like in action? Well, there are three really popular subsidies. One of them I already talked about, and that's this oil subsidy, where oil companies are paid money to keep gas affordable for us consumers. This agriculture subsidy, pays farmers to produce with a guaranteed price floor. And what that means is this. In the agriculture industry, what's happening right now is you're seeing all these mega farms pop up. Well, a mega farm can produce at a much lower supply cost than just your average, like Wisconsin farmer you might see out in the country. If they can produce at a far lower cost, the result of that is they can charge way less. If you can go to the store and you can buy 1 gallon of milk for $1 or somebody else's gallon of milk for $4, you're going to buy the gallon of milk for $1. And that's about what's happening is the average farmer in Wisconsin can't make any money unless they're charging way more than the mega farms are. So the government stepped in and they told these local farmers, if you guarantee to keep producing, we will guarantee to keep a price floor. The price floor means that the price cannot go below a certain level. So everyone has to charge for certain goods at least this much money. By saying that the price will never fall below, say, $3.50, the local farmer will make sure they stay in business, and they know that they can continue having an income. An easier example is the manufacturing subsidy, which we've seen more and more in the last couple of years. In the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, businesses have gone overseas because they can pay people less money overseas because there are fewer regulations overseas. So, to correct that issue, the United States government has offered subsidies to manufacturing companies that move their companies from foreign lands back to the United States. So if I owned a company that a United States-based company but was located in China and I moved that company back to the United States, I would get a ton of money from the United States government in the form of a subsidy. As always, with many of our issues, there are some people that are very in favor of this and some people who are very against this. The people in favor of the subsidy structure say that it benefits consumers mainly. It keeps prices low and keeps demand high. Many people will also say that it can be used to encourage progress because subsidies can be offered to fund innovations, especially in the energy field, whereas business owners getting into the renewable energy field might not know how much money they can make. With the available subsidies, they're at least guaranteed a certain amount of money. And then lastly, it favors imports over exports because it pays American companies, whereas it doesn't ever pay a foreign-based company. The money or the theories against, many people say it's wasteful spending because, as always, the money that comes from the government comes from us as taxpayers. So really, we're the ones paying the subsidies, and some people might not like that idea. Some people say it upsets economic competition. So if individual businesses, say in the auto industry, we saw this happen with the car manufacturer bailout. Some companies may have run their companies better and in a way that was more stable, while other companies were frivolous with their money and made poor choices, and the government stepped in and still kept them alive with subsidies. And many people say that that's not right, that those companies should be allowed to die, and it upsets economic competition. Many people also say that it hinders progress because in industry like the oil industry, many people say that because people are not paying the true cost, because people are not paying the $5, $5.50 that they should be paying without the subsidies, people continue to use the oil. Many people argue that if the subsidies were done away with and we were paying $5 a gallon, that people, because of the demand going down, would start to buy hybrid cars, would start to buy electric cars more and more, and that would fuel further progress in more clean energies. And then other people say it's just one more way that the government is getting involved in the natural path of the market, and that is never a good thing. Now let's focus. The last thing I'm going to do is talk a little bit about subsidies and how they focus on energy. And right now there are really three ways that we see subsidies acting in energy. The first is a fossil fuel subsidy. Because we do need energy, the government is offering people subsidies, companies subsidies, who can produce energy at a minimal emissions level. So if they can produce energy without polluting a lot, they will get some money in turn for that. In terms of our renewable energies, we have two options. First are RECs, which stand for Renewable Energy Certificates. And that is for every 1 megawatt of power that anybody generates, they will get some credit. And I can't remember how much that credit was worth, but it's a fairly substantial amount of money. So for every megawatt they're allowed to produce, or they produce, they're getting like $1 million or something like that. And then there's also renewable energies payment, where rather than just an amount, a company or an individual, a homeowner, will agree to produce energy for a given time, and in response for their time, they get a flat rate. All right, so that's the subsidy plan. I hope you were paying attention during my discussion on how that subsidies look in the market in terms of the supply and demand curve. Because what you're going to do now is you're going to return to the website, and there's going to be a practice activity where you're going to show, using the supply and demand curve, just how the subsidy plan impacts our markets. So go ahead, do that. As always, if you have any questions, I'll be here to help you out. And I hope you have fun with this. I hope this has been very enlightening and gives you a better sense of the world that you live in. And I hope you had fun with this entire seminar. So have a good day.